Ever wondered how the best movers cover the court so well? To quote Roger Federer, "The best players are the best movers." It's been like this for the last 10 to 20 years, and it's going to continue to stay like this. Now let's first start out by showing you the two key essential factors to being a great mover on the tennis court. Then we'll show you some movement patterns. It's also important to remember, not only are these players extremely fit, but they have incredible anticipation skills. The key is the timing of the split step and their quick first reactionary step. So what do we mean by the timing of the split step? Ideally, the key, when around the baseline, that they are unweighted when their opponent is making contact with the ball. Now why? It allows them to read the ball traveling off the strings to recognize the direction where the ball is going. If they're still grounded or on the way up, they are then losing time. Great movers land with a wide base, giving them a lower center of gravity. You can either land with both feet at the same time, which we recommend when first working on this. Then as your timing and recognition skills improve, you'll see that really good movers use what we call a flow step, where they land with one foot so they can push off and increase the speed of their first step in the direction of the ball. This is how quickly they are able to take their first step. They move in various ways determined by the amount of distance which they need to cover and the time that they have. Now a special mention to my friend Ian Meyer, one of the world's best movement specialists who I learned this from. Now there are 4 movement zones which are broken into 2 subcategories, your comfort zone and your challenge zone. The comfort zone is where the ball is hit relatively close to you. The challenge zone is where the ball is hit further away and you have to cover a greater distance. Now these zones can be further divided, giving us a total of 4 distinct movement zones. In your comfort zone, we have what we call the step out zone. This is zone 1, where you basically take one step out in any direction. Then there's the rhythm zone. This is zone 2, where you take 2 rhythm steps. Now in the challenge zone, we then move on to zone 3, which is also considered the crossover zone, where you have to cover a greater distance. And then we get into zone 4, which is also called the running zone, where you're in a lot of trouble and you pretty much have to go into full sprint mode. The key difference between the comfort and challenge zones is that in the comfort zone, you ideally don't cross your feet, where in the challenge zone, it's essential that you cross your feet in order to get to the ball. Now, why the difference? When you cross your feet, you cover approximately twice the distance with the same amount of steps, which is great when you have to cover distance. The trade-off is that you have to go off balance, but like a sprinter out of the starting blocks, you get assistance from gravity, but you then need to regain your balance. Now, when you don't cross your feet and take rhythm steps or shuffle steps, while you can't cover great distances effectively, you're able to more easily maintain your balance. When you are balanced, you have a greater probability to hit with more consistency, accuracy, and also power. If you have great strokes, you need to be able to get into great position to use those great strokes effectively. So here is an example of zone 1, the step out zone. This is essentially where you just step out in the appropriate direction, lining up and loading the outside leg. From here, one can then choose their stance. Now looking at an example of zone 2, the rhythm zone, you will see 2 steps out. We also see these rhythm steps when the ball is hit right at you and you need to get out of the way and create space, which we'll cover in a second. Now zone 3, the crossover zone. As Ian calls it, cross load. Now from the zone, there's also recovery crossover step. Now there's something very specific about this crossover recovery step. Notice how the toes point towards the net. This is important so that you're facing your opponent, so you can't get wrong-footed if your opponent hits behind you. Moving on to zone 4, the running zone, or your full sprint mode. you will see there's a drop step where the foot is positioned below the hip, which gives a combination of maximum force and body lean. Players then separate the hands so they can pump their arms to drive the legs to get to the ball faster. And lastly, this brings us to the C dance, when the ball's hit at you and you have to create space. We see rhythm steps moving in a circular shape, much like a semicircle or letter C. Now, the next time you're watching high-level tennis, try to identify which zone the player is in and how they move accordingly. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel.